Imagine holding a small coin in the palm of your hand. It weighs only a few grams, measures less than an inch across, and most people would probably spend it without giving it a second thought. But what if that tiny coin carried a story of courage, history, war, politics, science, and one of America's most beloved presidents? That is exactly what the 1960 Roosevelt dime represents. At first glance, it appears to be just another 10-cent coin. On the front is the portrait of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, while the back features a torch, an olive branch, and an oak branch. Yet behind this simple design lies a fascinating journey stretching across decades of American history. The story begins long before 1960. It begins with a young boy born into a wealthy family in Hyde Park, New York, on January 30th, 1882. His name was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and no one could have imagined that he would become one of the greatest leaders in American history. Roosevelt enjoyed a privileged childhood, receiving private education before attending Harvard University. Later, he studied law at Columbia University and entered politics. His intelligence, confidence, and determination quickly earned him respect. Everything changed in 1921. At only 39 years old, Roosevelt became seriously ill with what doctors believed was polio. Within days, he lost the use of his legs. At that time, many people believed his political career was over, but Roosevelt refused to surrender. He spent years learning how to move again, using heavy steel braces and a cane. Although he never fully regained the ability to walk, he continued his political career with remarkable determination. His courage inspired millions of Americans. Years later, during the Great Depression, Roosevelt was elected President of the United States. The nation faced economic disaster. Millions had lost their jobs, banks had collapsed, and families struggled to survive. Roosevelt introduced programs known as the New Deal, designed to rebuild the American economy and restore hope. When World War II began, Roosevelt again became the leader the nation needed. Under his leadership, the United States joined the Allied forces and helped defeat Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. Despite severe health challenges, Roosevelt served an unprecedented 4 terms as president. Sadly, on April 12, 1945, only months before the end of World War II, Franklin D. Roosevelt died while still serving as president. America mourned deeply. Citizens wanted a permanent way to honor the man who had guided the country through 2 of the greatest crises in modern history. One organization played a major role in that decision. It was called the March of Dimes. The March of Dimes raised money to fight polio. Americans donated millions of dimes to support research, hospitals, and treatment for children affected by the disease. Because Roosevelt himself had battled polio and strongly supported this organization, choosing the dime to honor him seemed perfect. Only 1 year after Roosevelt's death, the United States Mint introduced the Roosevelt dime in 1846. The artist chosen to design the coin was John Ossinek, the chief engraver of the United States Mint. His portrait of Roosevelt remains one of the most recognizable coin designs ever created. When Americans first saw the new dime, many felt emotional. Every time they spent 10 cents, they remembered the president who had led the country through difficult times. By 1960, the Roosevelt dime had become one of the most common coins in circulation. Yet 1960 itself was a remarkable year. America was changing rapidly. Televisions had become common in homes. Rock and roll music was transforming popular culture. The space race between the United States and the Soviet Union was accelerating. New highways connected cities across the nation. Families were purchasing automobiles in record numbers. Meanwhile, millions of Roosevelt dimes rolled off the presses at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Every coin represented precision engineering. Each 1960 dime contained 90% silver and 10% copper, giving it intrinsic value far beyond its face value today. The silver composition made these coins durable and attractive. Their bright appearance became familiar to generations of Americans. The obverse of the coin features Roosevelt facing left. Around his portrait appears the word liberty, symbolizing one of America's founding principles. Below the portrait are the words "In God We Trust," officially added to American coins during the 1950s. The date 1960 marks the year of production. Tiny mint marks help identify where each coin was made. A coin without a mint mark came from Philadelphia. A small D indicates it was struck in Denver. Collectors carefully examine these tiny details because they can significantly affect a coin's rarity and value. By the year 1960, the Roosevelt dime had become one of the most widely used coins in America. Millions of people carried these small silver coins in their wallets, pockets, and purses every single day. Children used them to buy candy. Newspapers cost only a few dimes, and a vending machine could dispense a cold drink for just 10 cents. No one imagined that decades later, many of these same coins would become prized collectibles. The 1960 Roosevelt dime was struck at two United States mint facilities, Philadelphia and Denver. Coins produced in Philadelphia carried no mint mark, while coins struck in Denver featured a small D mint mark to the left of the date. During 1960, the Philadelphia mint produced more than 435 million dimes, while the Denver mint struck over 200 million. Together, they produced well over 600 million coins, making the 1960 dime one of the most common issues of its era. Because so many were made, many people assume the coin has little value. However, experienced collectors know that rarity is not determined by mintage alone. Condition, quality, mint errors, and historical significance can transform an ordinary-looking coin into an extraordinary treasure. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1960 Roosevelt dime is its silver content. Every 1960 dime was made from 90% silver and 10% copper. This composition had been used for decades in American dimes. Silver gave the coin its beautiful shine and made it resistant to wear. In 1965, rising silver prices forced the U.S. government to stop using silver in circulating dimes. New dimes were instead made from copper, covered with a nickel alloy. That decision changed American coinage forever. As a result, every Roosevelt dime dated 1964 or earlier became a historic silver coin. Today, many people search through old collections, hoping to discover forgotten silver dimes hidden among ordinary change. Collectors often examine these coins under magnification, because tiny details can dramatically increase value. The first thing they check is the coin's overall condition. Coins that entered circulation usually develop scratches, worn edges, and faded details after years of use. However, coins that were carefully stored remained bright, sharp, and nearly flawless. These are called mint state coins. Professional grading companies evaluate coins using a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS65 is considered a high-quality collectible. An MS67 or MS68 coin is exceptionally rare because very few survive without noticeable imperfections. The highest quality 1,960 Roosevelt dimes have sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars because collectors compete fiercely for perfect examples. Another exciting area of collecting involves mint errors. During the minting process, enormous presses strike blank metal discs with tremendous force. Occasionally, mistakes occur. Some coins are struck off-center, others show doubled lettering, some are struck through grease, leaving missing details. A few may have clipped edges or other unusual features. These mistakes are accidental, making them especially desirable to collectors because every era coin is unique. One of the most famous varieties from 1960 is the 1960 double die obverse. On this variety, parts of the lettering and date appear doubled because the coin die itself received a doubled impression during production. Collectors carefully inspect the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date 1960, using magnifying glasses to search for this rare variety. If authenticated, a genuine double die can be worth far more than an ordinary example. The reverse of the Roosevelt dime also carries important symbolism. At the center stands a torch, representing freedom and liberty. To the left is an olive branch, symbolizing peace. To the right is an oak branch, representing strength, courage, and independence. Together, these three symbols express America's ideals: liberty, peace, and strength. Surrounding these, imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out a simple 10-cent coin. Most people would spend it without giving it a second thought. But what if that little coin carried a story of courage, leadership, war, science, and one of the greatest presidents in American history? That is exactly what the 199 Roosevelt dime represents. Although it is worth only 10 cents in everyday circulation, this small coin connects millions of Americans to an extraordinary chapter of history. Every line engraved on the coin, every letter, and every symbol tells a story that began more than a century ago. The story starts with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, commonly known as FDR. He was born on January 30th, 1882, in Hyde Park, New York, into a wealthy family. Unlike many children of his time, Roosevelt was educated at home by private tutors before attending Groton School and later Harvard University. Even as a young man, he showed intelligence, confidence, and a deep interest in public service. After completing his education, Roosevelt entered politics. His charm, leadership skills, and determination quickly earned him recognition. He served in several important government positions and dreamed of one day becoming President of the United States. However, life took an unexpected turn in 1921. At only 39 years old, Roosevelt became seriously ill. Doctors believed he had polio, a disease that damaged his legs and left him unable to walk without assistance. Many people believed his political career was finished. Instead of giving up, Roosevelt fought back with remarkable determination. He spent years learning how to move using heavy steel leg braces and a cane. Even though he could never fully walk again, he refused to let his disability define him. His courage inspired millions of Americans and became one of the greatest examples of perseverance in modern history. In 1932, during the darkest years of the Great Depression, Roosevelt was elected President of the United States. At that time, millions of Americans had lost their jobs. Businesses were closing, banks were failing, and families struggled simply to survive. Roosevelt introduced a series of programs known as the New Deal. These programs created jobs, built roads, bridges, schools, and parks, supported farmers, strengthened banks, and restored hope to the American people. Many historians believe these reforms helped the country recover from one of the worst economic crises in history. As if those challenges were not enough, another global crisis soon emerged. In 1939, World War II began. Although the United States did not enter immediately, the attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941 changed everything. Roosevelt led America through the war, working closely with Allied leaders to defeat Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. Despite his declining health, Roosevelt continued serving as president. He became the only American president ever elected to 4 terms, a record that still stands today. Although the United States did not enter immediately, the attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941 changed everything. Roosevelt led America through the war, working closely with Allied leaders to defeat Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. Despite his declining health, Roosevelt continued serving as president. He became the only American president ever elected to 4 terms, a record that still stands today. Sadly, on April 12, 1945, only a few months before World War II ended, Franklin D. Roosevelt passed away while still serving in office. His death shocked the nation. Millions mourned the loss of the leader who had guided America through economic collapse and global war. Soon afterward, government officials searched for a meaningful way to honor Roosevelt's legacy. The answer was found in an organization called the March of Dimes. The March of Dimes was a charity dedicated to fighting polio, the disease that had affected Roosevelt himself. Americans were encouraged to donate dimes to support research, medical treatment, and care for children suffering from the disease. Because Roosevelt had been one of the organization's strongest supporters, the United States Mint decided that placing his portrait on the 10-cent coin would be the perfect tribute. In 1946, only 1 year after Roosevelt's death, the first Roosevelt dime entered circulation. The artist responsible for the design was John Ossinek, the chief engraver of the United States Mint. His portrait of Roosevelt wreath. Front of the coin features Roosevelt facing left. Along the edge appears the word liberty, representing one of America's most important ideals. Below Roosevelt's neck are the words "In God We Trust," while the date marks the year the coin was struck. Your coin bears the date 1990, showing it was minted 44 years after the Roosevelt dime was first introduced. By 1990, America had entered a new era. The Cold War was ending, computers were becoming more common, and technology was rapidly changing everyday life. Yet the Roosevelt dime remained one of the nation's most familiar coins. The small D mint mark on your coin indicates it was produced at the Denver Mint in Colorado. The Denver Mint is one of the largest coin-producing facilities in the world and has struck billions of coins since opening in 1906. Unlike Roosevelt dimes produced before 1965, the 1990 Roosevelt dime contains no silver. It is made from a copper core, covered by a copper-nickel alloy. This change was introduced because the rising price of silver made it too expensive for everyday circulating coins. Although the 1990 dime does not contain precious metal, it remains important to collectors because of its history, design, and the possibility of rare mint errors. Every time someone spends a 1990 Roosevelt dime, they are holding a small piece of American history, a reminder of a president who overcame incredible challenges, led a nation through hardship, and inspired generations with his courage and